Today, folks, we're going to talk about Google. So many of you in my 7-figure chat group, which, by the way, you can join at kylelivingston.com, have been going off the rails about my Google trade, and especially many of you in the comment section and after hours here, because who would have guessed, guys, my bull thesis is fully working out, at least to a major extent. Now, Google's the largest single stock bet I've ever made in my investing career because I feel like I'm in a position and my portfolio is big enough that I could do so. But between my fiance and I, it is over 10% of our combined portfolios, with the expectations of outsized returns in the next 6 to 12 months from when we started the trade at around $174 a share to an expectation of around $240, $250 being fair value, at which I plan on start cutting the position down if we get there, but I'm going to keep probably about 5% to go long because I obviously love Google. I still think it's a great value, but we need to break down the entire bull thesis behind the position and why Google stock is rallying so aggressively. It's almost 8% in after hours, and I'm super grateful, and it's really nice. I can pat myself on the back that, hey, 240, 250 looks like it's coming way faster than I anticipated. But if you're on a path to financial independence, if you love talking about stocks and finding trades like this, consider hitting that subscribe button, folks, because I had two main theses behind Google. The first one, and I sold out of Google a while ago, out of the fear that large language models like ChatGPT were going to steal market share. Many of us were scared that that was going to become a fundamental reality. But as time went on and I started recognizing through earnings, guess what? Google search wasn't dying. Yeah, it wasn't growing at an excessive clip, but it was still growing at a reasonable pace. And it didn't look like after 3 years of ChatGPT that it was deteriorating, Google search by any material way. So I'm like, hey, the bears are wrong, and they still continue to perpetuate that through forums. And I'm like, there's a disconnect in value here because Google was trading at like 170 a share. I think what it dropped down to 150 something. And I'm like, you're wrong. Like, that thesis doesn't make sense anymore. And sure enough, the last quarterly earnings justified that to us, right? I mean, we just saw continued great double-digit growth. Google makes more net income than any of the Mag 7 stocks, including NVIDIA still. It should be the largest market cap company in the world. Everything about this company checks every box that I look for in a fundamental base case, right? Like, they're buying back aggressive amounts of shares. Their earnings per share is at a new explosive double-digit growth rate. The company was trading at a price to earnings multiple that was trading at levels not seen. It hit a 17 PE, guys. You have to go all the way back to 2010s, like the early 2010s era, to even come close to that level of valuation, let alone the growth that's currently backing the company. That's the disconnect in value because of people's fear around large language models. And of course, what we need to discuss driving the current stock volume is the court case, the monopolistic fine that we were going to get remedies to here in September. And I was speculating that it wasn't going to be as bad as people were making it out to be. And even if they have to spin part of the company off, that part of the company would be worth more to us as shareholders spun off than in the umbrella of Google. Because let's be real, self-driving, genomics, quantum computing, none of that has ever been priced into Google. And I think it's bullshit that Tesla can trade at obscene values with no growth on the expectation of future business models that don't exist. Yet none of that gets priced in with Google, and Google's growth rate and earnings are absolutely insane just based off their fundamental business, right? And keep in mind, Google has the second most amount of cash next to Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, this to me was like the most screaming buy opportunity that existed. And today, I figured the first big nail in the coffin was last earnings when we saw search growth actually continue to go up. It was flatlining and going down a bit for a while, but now we're seeing an acceleration in search revenue. So boom, nail in the coffin, shut up bears. You're wrong when it comes to large language models, just devastating Google search. The second big nail was this court case, and reading into it, I'm sorry, this is not the right one. This was the literal news article that came out before this tonight. This morning, Google stock opens lower on AI chip slump, but Q2 and blockchain boost sentiment. And then boom, out of nowhere, U.S. judge orders Google to share search data with competitors. Sounds horrifying when you say it out loud, but it is an intriguing risk for Google. But I think the reason the stock's rallying is it kicks the can down the road. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But Alphabet Google must share data with rivals to open up competition in online search. A judge in Washington ruled on Tuesday while rejecting prosecutors' bid to make the internet giant sell off its popular Chrome browser and Android operating system. Now, Google obviously is a conglomerate. I mean, They were paying Apple to be the number one search on iOS. They own Android, the other major phone operating system. They got Gmail. I mean, they just own so much of everything that we use on a daily basis. So, I mean, they're clearly a monopoly, but the judge is backpedaling here, which is great. But Google CEO Sundar Pichai expressed concerns at the trial in the case in April that data sharing measures sought by the U.S. Department of Justice could enable Google's rivals to reverse engineer the technology. So I think when we've discussed, even ChatGPT that is obviously leaning into Google search, it is really hard to build a real search engine because it's a global infrastructure. It's not like one cloud center. Like, it's cost tens of billions to build out a brand new search engine, right? And I'm not sure what data specifically he's referring to that could give them insight on how to build out their proprietary search stuff. And is it proprietary? I mean, do they even have patents on it? I don't really know. This is obviously a deeper conversation that we don't have a lot of insight on. But regardless, Google said previously that it plans to file an appeal, which means it could take years before the company is required to act on the ruling. We already get a lot of search data through Google Trends. So I'm curious to what other data for search are they required to share with other users. And to be frank, this is like the most mild slap on the wrist. Think about like major infrastructure like telecom giants. Here in Canada, there's like 3 major monopolies on telecom, and the government forced them to open up their infrastructure so smaller companies could piggyback off of it. That's kind of what's happening here, in my opinion. And again, they pushed the can down the road that we're not even gonna have to worry about it now for a couple of years. But basically, the U.S. District Judge Meta also barred Google from entering into exclusive agreements that would prohibit device maker from pre-installing rival products on new devices. This is hilarious in and of itself because they own Android, but they did have partnerships with Samsung and Apple. And I'm curious now, what is Apple going to do? Because everyone's still going to Google on Apple. It's still probably going to be the default, but is Google required to pay Apple that 10 or 20 billion, whatever they were paying? Like, Google was paying Apple an arm and a leg to be the default search browser. They don't have to pay to be the default. And Apple's still like, hey guys, we want to use you instead of Siri. We want to use Gemini. If all of that comes into fruition, guys, not only is Google saving a crap ton of money not paying Apple, but I mean, come on, like, how do you compete? Obviously I'm using Gemini and even ChatGPT still, and I'm still using search. I'm using the whole ecosystem, but the speculation is that that whole large language model is just growing the value of search. At least that's what we're presuming, right? And we're seeing it in revenue growth regardless. But Google has argued that loosening its agreement with device makers, browser developers, and mobile network operators was only appropriate remedy in this case. And Google's like, yeah, because if we just don't have to pay them, and now that we've been around for so long, they basically have to use Google, we're set. We don't have to pay them any money. It goes back in our pocket, bolstered earnings. Let's go, baby. Its most recent deals with the device makers, Samsung, Electronic, Motorola, and wireless carrier AT&T and Verizon, allow them to load rival search offerings, according to the documents shown in trial. Like I said, we've all been well aware of this, guys. And I think the company recently said it will continue to fight a ruling requiring it to revamp its app store in a lawsuit won by Fortnite. Yeah, there's been so much in here, guys. It's just the game of monopolistic back and forth court cases, but clearly not nearly as detrimental. And would it have been detrimental to spin Chrome off? I would have welcomed it as a shareholder. I mean, every business they have, cloud alone is worth like 1/3 of the market cap. I can't wait till the market opens tomorrow. This thing will be trading closer to 24, 25 PE. Somewhere between 25 and 30 is closer to fair value. I honestly think the stock should be trading at a 30 PE if Microsoft is capable of trading there, and this company, Google, is just doing a much better job at growing its earnings. I don't know, to each their own, right? But I picked this up at one hell of a great price, and I'm really starting to celebrate, especially on the back of Meta. Meta was doing much better for us at the beginning of the year, and we picked it up on a great dip price when Meta was trading down at that, where was it this year? We got a great deal on Meta too. We were up over 20% on it, buying it somewhere down here when it took that major tank back in April. But Meta's been lagging a bit. So, and considering Meta's a materially smaller position, I think Meta in our combined accounts is something closer to a 6%, whereas again, Google is closer to a 10%. I can't get over this though. Wow. Just what a flawless trade, flawless trade on the back of crazy market cycles, guys. But we'll all celebrate together. For those of you that bought Google, I'd love to hear about it in that comment section below.